Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the mentorship meeting for Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. And we are going into summer season, so we're going into summer action. And what I want to do is spend a little bit of time talking about the new hire training. Or rehired training for that matter. And specifically, what I want to do is I want to look at the refresher course year one. So let's make sure that this is going to share that and only that. Okay. And so we're sharing the screen, and this is where you go to courses, and then all the courses are there. So we're going to talk about the year one refresher course, and this is a good course to review even on year two. But essentially this unlocks after you've taken the Teaching Swimming online course and the Level Structure online course. The idea being that those two give you a fundamental understanding of both the language, the format, and the way things are going to be run during swimming ideas, how we talk about swimming and how we talk about running lessons, specifically how we teach them and what we're looking for and kind of the terminology that we're going to use, the language that we use to talk about certain things like streamline, position 11, the transitions, the progressions between them, and what that looks like when it comes to delivering effective instruction. And what the year one refresher does is it gives you a refresher on things to focus on. So really the frameworks for effective instruction, I just want to go through this course pretty quickly with you today. I don't think it's going to take a full 30 to 20 minutes. There are some people that want to hop in and talk. We'll do that during the today, but generally what we're going to do is focus on this, and then if someone shows up, we'll focus on the questions for mentorship. So the rotation method, this is probably the most important thing that we need to work on as a agency, as a suggestive body. Rotation method is super, super effective when it is done and done well. What I often see, and the things that I often have issue with swim instructors, is that they don't leverage the power of automating their actions. So we really want to establish a long-term, consistent behavior of rotation method throughout swimming. And the rotation method is essentially circle swimming. So it's not revolutionary, it's not anything different, it's circle swimming. So it's literally doing this in a smaller space. You swim down on one side, you cross over, and you return on the other, so that multiple people can be participating at the same time. It's like driving a car, it's like going in a circle. You can see here they're doing flip turns into the wall and then pushing off on the other side and continue swimming. This is the same concept that we use in our swim lessons with level 1s and level 2s. You could see from the GIF here, they're going around in circles on the benches, they move across the benches, and then they return. So it's the same concept, circle swimming, right? So in a square, it's circle swimming. If you have just one instructor and you don't have a bench, you do circle swimming to the instructor, you move over physically and push them back towards the wall so they get back in line. We do this in short distance sets. So you can see here, number 3 is doing their streamline. They're doing their 3 strokes of freestyle. They're moving across the lane and returning to their line. When people return, they don't really need to do the activity again, but you can have them do that. What we're really looking for is an excellent streamline pushed off the wall, and then whatever supplemental or secondary activity you're doing. So streamline first, and then the secondary activity. Generally, that takes them to about the flags, which is about 5 yards for children. It can be a little further than that, and that's fine. There's really no limit on this. The intention is multiple reps, multiple times with the coach or the instructor watching every rep and giving feedback during their return. So you can have people going constantly while the coach or the instructor is giving constant feedback on the quality of each attempt. And that's actionable feedback on things like lock your thumb, squeeze your ears, look down, Keep your head down when you're not breathing. Reach all the way to position 11 with every arm stroke. Make sure your arms come all the way above the water. Don't have a wiggle butt. All these little nuanced things that we teach in the Teaching Swimming online course are contingent on you structuring your lesson in a way that's effective. Similarly, it goes into in depth on what rotation method is and then how to do it. This is how you would do the rotation method without a bench. But it's a great resource to review and reiterate and really hone in on, especially as a lesson coordinator, someone who's facilitating swim lessons. All right, so the next one is how to use a projector with TV or lesson plans. So we use a projector for our lessons. We use it here. It's independent, it's battery powered, so there's no cords. If it falls over, it just falls over. It doesn't really present a safety hazard of any kind. It's projected onto the wall behind it. It's a really high lumen projector, so we can use it during the daylight and in bright lighting. And that's the lesson plan for the day. We use this website. So let's take a look here, because I use this link to get to this meeting as well. So we use the lesson plans TV. So this is what we use for our lessons. Like, we project this onto the screen and we follow it like a lesson plan, because it is a one-to-one of the lesson plan with the benefit of having videos involved in it. So we do bubbles and bobs with our swimmers. It's a great tool. Each box is a section on the screen. So we just kind of scroll down because it fills up the screen. And then these are the activities we do for level 1. And then we can point to it. We can say, all right, this is what we're doing next. We watch a video and then we do it in the water. So it's a really excellent tool for you to supplement the quality of your instruction, because then you don't have to spend as much time demonstrating. You can use the video resource, you can use the pictures, people can read it, they can anticipate what's happening next. The instructors don't have to have a sheet in the water, they can just look at it. It's a great resource to work with that. So how do you use that and what does that look like? That's a good refresher on how that looks like and what the lead instructor's responsibilities are versus the instructors that are in the water. Next is we have something that we call advanced swim lessons. This is a bridge lesson between traditional learn to swim classes and a swim team. So we want to bridge that by preparing the swimmers in a way that provides them the same terminology, language, and feeling of a swim team without the strict skill requirement of really good quality freestyle with side breathing. We're teaching that in this class, right? We're teaching freestyle with side breathing in a format that mirrors or is close to what a developmental swim program would look like. So we want to merge swim lessons with swim team, and this is an instructor course on the nuanced differences between what swim team and swim lessons are, and then what the different roles are. So what the swim instructor's role is, what the lead instructor's role is, what the coach role is. What is our intent upon this? And then what do we want to get out of it? And how do we facilitate lessons like that? So again, most of the lesson plans for level 3 and 4 are modeled after developmental swim lessons. So if you're using that lesson page here, lesson plans online. And so if you, here, I don't know why it wasn't showing up, but there's a couple free ones. The rest of them you have to be a member for, and I can share that with you if you send me an email. But this mirrors the lesson plans that we have in our sheets. But this is pretty close to what we would do in a developmental practice that I would run, which I ran for 12 years. So, this is super effective. It works really, really well. You can even do it continually. You don't need to change it up too much. You can do this every week. It's set so you do it in 4-day cycles. So you do day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and then restart. And that generally is each week. But you can do these things if as long as you understand the format of it there. Okay. Let's look at tools. So the Activity Integrity Challenge formula. So again, this course, the refresher course, is really all about highlighting those super effective things that make the biggest difference in our lessons. And what we've really found through years of iteration on this, because we're always evaluating it, and saying, okay, does this work? Does this work? What do we need to emphasize? What do we need to focus on as an administrator of these lessons? And we have hundreds of kids come through our program every year. This summer we're going to have probably 500 or 600 swimmers, and they're all going to flow through this program. We want to make sure that they get a consistent experience throughout. And then during the off season, during the school year, we're going to have many of those same swimmers continue with us. We're going to need to make sure that we have a consistency in our delivery. So the activity challenge formula is a really important part of that. And activity 1, activity 2, and then challenge. And this portion describes why that's important. And really, I think this is a funny kind of AI generated pictures that I made. But the activities, they build up pressure and steam, right? Like if you have like a boiler and it's filling with steam, or you're boiling water and you left the lid on, it starts bubbling on top. The challenge is you lifting the lid off and releasing all that pressure. And now your swimmers they're having fun, they're being excited, they're motivated. And then you can put that lid back on and focus on that really intense work. And then that pressure builds and builds and builds. And what this is simulating, and this is an analogy for the swimmer's attention and focus. So, everyone complains like kids don't have any focus these days. They're like not able to do anything. They need to be entertained and all out. Yeah, to a degree, but so does everyone. Like no one wants to be bored. Nobody wants to spend 45 minutes grueling doing the same thing over and over. It's so boring. No one's going to want to come to your swim lessons if that's the case. You want to make them fun and effective, right? And so activity, like focus work, and then challenge. Challenge is the exciting, the release, the fun, the joy, but it's also got a purpose to it, and it's directly related to the activities. So this formula works where you can do it over and over and over and over and over again. And once you become a master at teaching swimming, or just a master at leading or instructing, you can get a feel from your participants as you work with them of how much effort you can get out of them before you need a challenge. So you can start playing with the specifics of how many activities you can do and then how many challenges you need. And you can iterate on this. You can make small changes. You can make differences. Taking the core concept of really high intense focus skill work next to interesting, fun, dynamic, exciting challenges or difficulties that still require thought and attention, but have an inherent component of fun associated with them, or success, right? Because success and fun tend to stimulate the same kind of excitement in somebody. So this is kind of talking about, well, why do we do this, and what are the what are the differences between the first activity and the second activity? Okay, next up is the daily lesson plans and what those look like, and why we have daily lesson plans and how you can use them. So if you want, you can use day 1 over and over and over again, or you can do day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. Why are there only 4? It's a discussion on what this looks like and why they exist the way they exist. We talk about general lesson plans, parent-taught repeatable lesson plans, how the Guppies lesson plans work. So this is, again, it's more of a discussion on, okay, now that you have an understanding of how things, what languages are, what the words are, you're not just reading the sheets. Now let's give you the context of why. And that's what this course is. So do the challenges every single time. Don't skip the challenges. I often see swim instructors that are like, we're not going to do the challenges because we're just going to do this and we're going to save it for the last 5 minutes. That's a colossal mistake. I'm going to make a profound statement here in saying that if you're waiting to play games at the end of your lesson, you're just cutting your lesson short from 30 minutes to 25 minutes. And then you're just wasting 5 minutes of time. It's a colossal mistake to do that. Instead, you should be peppering throughout your lesson at set intervals, challenges that are bite-sized, so small, actionable, so they're super easy to implement and do, and fun. So I'll give you an example. We're running our new hire trainings now for returning summer staff. And on a sunny afternoon, we had some downtime between rotating stations. So we had 3 stations. One of them was going a little slower, so one of the stations had some extra time where they had finished their task, but were waiting. So I iterated on a challenge that we do for swim lessons called Statue Master. And in this case, we had 3 teenagers to adults, like in age range, 3 people, pairs of 3, groups of 3. And one person was the block of marble, one person was the sculptor, and one person was the shadow. And the way it worked was that the sculptor had to move the block of marble into a sculpture, right? So adjust their hands into some position. And the shadow had to lay in the statue's shadow completely without having any sunlight touch their body. So it was a multifaceted challenge because the sculptor had to put the person in a position, and we could have made it a swimming specific skill, but it wasn't a swimming lesson specific training, so we just left it open-ended. The statue had to hold that pose, so if it was a swimming skill, they'd be holding streamline or something. And then the shadow had the most fun because they were contorting their body into the shadow shape and making sure that there was no light touching them. And then the sculptor was the judge, right? So the success or fail person. And it was a lot of fun. People were getting into it, like, and of course there were some that weren't, but like this is an example of a bite-sized challenge that took 10 seconds to explain and allowed people to have fun. And then we rotated through a couple times. It was less than 5 minutes, and there was laughter, there was excitement, there was engagement, there was fun, and it's a good icebreaker. It's a good way to kind of build camaraderie with your group, because if you throw a roadblock in front of someone and then they overcome it, they've succeeded. And if they've done it in an interesting, fun, and like an innovative way, then that's even more rewarding to that person and to their peers and those around them. So do the challenges, do them every time. This is a really important part of this. Iterate on your challenges, create your own challenges. And then, of course, there's always the banned swim lesson games. These are the games that you should never play because they are a strict waste of time. Mr. Fox, fun game for a group of kids. Terrible game for a swim lesson. It just wastes time. It's useless. It's bad. It doesn't teach anything. Has no place in a swim lesson. Red light, green light. It's just kind of boring and doesn't really serve a purpose. Chase the instructor is a worthless game. There's no reason kids should just be running after you in circles for 30 minutes. I mean, if you're babysitting and the moms and the dad says that they want you, or the parent says that they want you to exhaust their kid and give them exercise, okay, but not during a swim lesson. And then diving for rings without structure or essential swim skills connected. So just throwing rings out, letting them go get it and come back. Entertaining for swimmers, terrible for swim lessons because there's no direct skill. There has to be some component of, okay, you have to do a front glide and then go get the ring, jump off and streamline, and then put the ring on your belly and do back float back to the bench. That's a good use of using rings because it has associative skills, not just tossing rings and playing around. So don't do those band games. They waste time. If you ever find yourself thinking, okay, how can I get through the next 3 minutes? Let's do a stupid game. Don't do it. Right? So that's what the year refresher course is really all about. It's all about, focusing on that operational behavior and that contextual information about why we do things the way we do them. And so then the goal from this course is that your returning staff have a fluent understanding of, what the different skills are, and then how now they know how to deliver them in a way that is actionable with context, and they become more masterful at what they're doing. And ideally, then they would move on to becoming lesson coordinators, where they have the intuitive insight about, okay, now why are we running a lesson in this way? How do we enforce rotation method on a consistent basis to all of our instructors? Of course, all of our staff are going to go through I should just go right to the download files page. All of our swim instructors are going to go through the in-person training, which you can find in the lesson coordinator handbook. So this thing is amazing. because it gives you the full block plan for training your staff. So this is the red section, setting expectations, and you can just follow it directly. You're going to need to prep it by using the left-hand side pages, and then the right-hand side is the block plan, the training activity 2, and challenge. What I find interesting about this is that the lesson coordinator handbook is kind of dense. I look at it now and I'm like, oh my God, I'm overloaded with text. Versus the teaching swimming workbook, version 4. The first section is a little more dense than I think I'd like, but there's a heavier intention, I guess, something of pictures here, and heavier influence of pictures. So it's a lot more pictures and ideally less dense. And I think I need to make it even more white space. But there's a lot of similarity here between the 3-section block plan, right? But it's a little more easier to follow. And so every iteration of these workbooks gets better and better. And I think that kind of gets expressed here. There's a lot more white space in these portions of it. And so then the text gets a little bit easier to read and it's easier to follow along with. And really that kind of manifests, I think, in the green section, where I really took that, let's condense it down into this most actionable language and make it really simple to kind of review and look at, versus, here it's a bit dense. But that's because I wanted it to be a one page, so you can open it up and run your thing without having to look off that page, or at the most go to a second page and focus on the discussion questions, kind of the broad, topic of what the section is about, and then the nuanced information on the left-hand side. So, I love this book. I think it's super effective. And I think you'd find a lot of use from it too. So let's wrap up there. I'm really excited for the start of summer. The mentorship dates are going to change going forward because I'm not going to be able to be here on Thursdays at 10 a.m. I'm not entirely sure when we're going to be doing them, but we will be changing the date starting next week. So this will be the last one. There haven't been a ton of mentorship opportunities or people reaching out, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is an opportunity to all aquatic professional memberships, or those people that have an individual all access membership or are part of a team. If you just want to come here and ask questions or chat or talk about your swim lessons and how to implement them or how to effectively set up your training, or just riff on the importance of freestyle and backstroke and swim lessons and streamline, happy to do that, or the progressions of position 11 and all the various iterations of that. So tomorrow we can teach better lessons together. Take care, and I hope you have a great summer.